Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another segment of Asaph Cafe. I am your host, Asaph Adonai. Check our time real quick, so I'll know when. I'm going to go by this watch here.
All right.
And affectionately on my left, our aging rocker Emmett.
Mm-hmm.
And through the magic of green screen technology, we are on the set of the original Popeye cartoon, the 1930 Popeye cartoon, and we're going to have fun. And also, this is St. Patrick's Day weekend.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about Popeye, St. Patrick's Day. We're going to talk about Tennessee Tuxedo, and a bunch of other cartoons from the past. So this will be a fun...
It shall be interesting, yes.
You know, fun St. Patrick's Day cafe. You want to start us off, Emmett?
Yeah. Heavenly Father, bless our time together in our soda pop in Jesus' name.
And I'm in total agreement. And instead of doing the traditional "This Guy's in Love with You," I'm going to start off with the theme song of our cartoon.
Well, actually, you know, I've been wearing this hoodie for so many years. It's almost like it's not St. Patrick's Day. It is, because the Dropkick Murphys were an Irish punk band, but it's perfect for St. Patrick's Day, even though I wear it all the time anyway.
And I'll do a St. Patrick's song a little bit. You can wear your little hat too if you want to.
Oh, yes. This is something we got. It was one of the things from up there from one of the cameras, but I decided to put on my head. Look at that. Isn't that surreal?
Yeah, because I have a little tiny hat on too if you really look at it.
Oh.
See? St. Patrick's Day hat. Probably won't show up very well on the screen, but anyway, because when you have green on green, it's hard to show up, you know.
Who are those guys in the 70s? Devo. I look like a member of Devo. You know the song.
Yeah, I
Whip It.
remember them.
Whip It.
Yeah, it was something like this.
Yeah, I look like one of those guys. They always had hats and that like.
Something like that.
Yeah. I look like a member of
something
Devo.
Like that. Yeah, well, that's cool. We can talk about Devo too. But first, let's start off with the theme.
Oh, by the way, I don't like spinach.
We'll talk about that. And that's the theme of Popeye.
Yeah.
I like that. Looks better if on the side of your head if it stays.
I know, but I wanted to be silly and put it on the side of my head.
Yeah, the group Devo, they did a song called "Whip It," if I remember.
Yes, and they often wore these type of hats or other type of hats. I think some of them were potted plant hats, you know, for bedding plants, and or I don't know what they were, but it was kind of, I saw the video on Beavis and Butthead.
But way before Beavis and Butthead, that group was popular.
Yeah, it was, but they showed the video on Beavis and Butthead. You know, when
they did?
Well, remember in Beavis and Butthead when often between, you know, talking about whatever misadventures they were having, they were at home on a couch like this watching MTV rock music videos.
Okay.
And they would always talk about them, like about Metallica or Kiss or, you know, Whip It. They're talking about Whip It, and they always have this funny comedy, because have you ever seen Beavis and Butthead? That was the icing on the cake for me.
Okay, cool.
I mean, I know they have them out on DVD and videotape, but I don't care for those because they don't have the times when they were on the couch at home watching MTV rock music videos and doing stupid comments about it. And that was, to me, what Beavis and Butthead was not totally about, but it made sense because that's what they would do. And without it, Beavis and Butthead really doesn't work for me. I don't want just the misadventures outside their home, because they lived at home when they were not at school causing havoc or being stupid. They were at home rotting out their brains with MTV's rock music videos or other music videos no one even ever heard of. And, you know, making stupid comments. As a matter of fact, a group called Ween was broken by Beavis and Butthead.
Really?
And I loved it.
I don't know that group.
Well, it became very famous after Beavis and Butthead. I can't promise I was broken, but no one had ever heard of Ween until they showed their video.
Was that a real life group?
Yes, Ween. And they had a video, because sometimes they would show videos no one had ever seen or played on MTV
before. On
before.
Beavis and Butthead, when they were showing that video of Devo, was it the real Devo?
Yes, the real Devo video. Yes, from the 70s. Yeah, the MTV's real. Yes, the very real one. Whip It. Yeah.
That's interesting. The real images with the cartoon. That's
Yes, well, what they did was, Beavis and Butthead were just, looking at it, and then they would switch to the video, and a lot of the video play, and then they'd have the animated cartoons like, hey, that looks like some sort of idiotic snoid that they're whipping. It's amazing. You could wear one hat one day, the other hat the other day, and they would protect you from harmful rays. Then Butthead said, Beavis, you're a real weirdo. yeah, I know. I mean, but they would... then show the MTV Rock movie video, and then Beavis and Butthead either rocking out or fighting over the video. It's like, that's not what it is, that's not what it is. And finally, all right, it's Wolverine, it's not Wolverine. Well, how can you enjoy it if it's not Wolverine, whether it's a character in a rock music video that looked like Wolverine from the X-Men? All right, okay, it's not Wolverine, now just shut up so I can enjoy this stupid, horrible, music video. This is terrible. Well, as far as Ween, and I had to get the album. I rushed to get because I didn't even know what it was. This was a band that Beavis and Butthead panned. They hated it. I loved the song. It was so stupid. It was push the little daisies and watch them come up. Push the little daisies and watch them come up. I thought that's the only thing it would be. They do a very eclectic kind of new wave type of stuff, kind of college rock, and I hate college rock, but it was like, watch the little daisies grow, watch the little daisies grow, make them come up, push the little pansies and make them come up. And Butthead said, this band has no future. Well, thanks to Beavis and Butthead, that band broke the, and even Ween has come to town. I just didn't have the money to go see them, and so now they're popular.
So because of that cartoon, it helped elevate that group as well.
Exactly, as well as a few others that no one would have ever heard of or seen before. I mean,
I was going to say, changing the subject, I'm playing this theme song, the Tennessee Tuxedo. It goes like this. I don't know if you ever heard it. You don't recognize it?
No, I never saw the cartoon.
Isn't that cool?
Yep.
That's Tennessee Tuxedo. Anyway, before we talk about our main character, Popeye, let's talk about Tennessee Tuxedo.
Yeah, I've never heard of him, yeah.
Well, you might recognize him if you saw him. Tennessee Tuxedo came out in the early 60s, and he was a talking penguin who wanted to be human, but he wasn't human. He acted human, but he really wasn't, so he was not treated as human by his zookeeper, Stanley Livingston. And his best friend was Chumley, this walrus, talking walrus. And what Tennessee always wanted to do, since he wanted to be human, he'd try to sneak out of the zoo with Chumley and try to do things like humans do, like take human jobs, like being an electrician or a doctor, like a surgeon, which he was way out of his league. And so whenever he would escape from the zoo to try to be human, when it went over his head, he would see his friend, Mr. Phineas J. Whoopi, who was a genius. And Mr. Whoopi had this giant three-dimensional chalkboard. And so, like, if Tennessee wanted to be a surgeon, Mr. Whoopi would tell him what a real surgeon does, and then would warn Tennessee not to try it because he's not skilled. But when Mr. Whoopi was explaining what electricians and things do, he would draw it on his magic chalkboard, and you would see the stick figures on the board moving as Mr. Whoopi was explaining not only the Tennessee Tuxedo but the TV audience, so that people would really know. And it was real. The information was real. They would talk about math, history, science, whatever. And it was considered an educational cartoon, even though it was a cartoon. So this is a little bit of history about Tennessee Tuxedo.
Yeah, I was born in 1967, so I wouldn't have seen it.
But that was a fun cartoon that talked about real life topics at the time. And Tennessee had his enemies, like most cartoons do. Like one of his enemies was this Jeremiah the mouse, who was this boastful mouse. In fact, they had this episode where Jeremiah the mouse was telling all the animals in the zoo that he's been to the moon. And so all the animals were mesmerized by this story, right? And Tennessee's like, will you look at that Chumley, that braggart Jeremiah Mouse? He's not been to the moon. And so Tennessee was ticked off and like, I'm going to show these animals that he's not been to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
So what he does is he goes to Mr. Whoopi, and Mr. Whoopi says, well, instead of trying to build a trash can with explosive to shoot off, because they tried that and it didn't work, Mr. Whoopi says, why don't you just bring one of those amusement park rocket rides, you know, the kind that spin around that children ride on, and you can have fun that way. So Tennessee brings this amusement park ride to the park, and all the animals are riding on like the planes, you know, spinning around, you know, like this. And Jeremiah was afraid because, you know, he's just a braggart that talk. You know how people brag and talk and they're really scared? So when Jeremiah runs away from all the animals, they laugh at him and they just have fun, and Tennessee has fun in Chumley, and thanks to Mr. Whoopi. So that was just an episode of Tennessee Tuxedo.
Interesting.
But Mr. Whoopi did explain about rockets and how rockets take off for real, and that Tennessee wouldn't be able to. Remember I told you Tennessee, everything would be out of his range?
Yes.
So to build a real rocket to go to the moon would be out of his range. So the next best thing was to get a roller coaster, not a roller coaster, but a little spin around thing. He had like a plane, couple of planes that spin around in the circle, and the animals could ride around. And of course, Jeremiah the mouse was afraid, so he runs off. But that just gives you an idea. It was just a cute little fun cartoon that had real life facts, whether it's oil or electricity or how cars run or whatever, you know, and stuff like that.
Well, again, you know what that reminds me of? Talking about baby TV and how much I love Squeak. Squeak is kind of similar. It's not. It doesn't have any enemies or doesn't have any real plots. This is about, you know, the three little mice in the TikTok house, and how sweet and adorable they are, and how they play together, and you know, we're here to play with you, dog, Dizzy and Toot. We're gonna play with you. What are we gonna play today? But it's educational.
Yeah,
it's for babies, but it is.
First was Tennessee Tuxedo, and then Schoolhouse Rock was educational.
And ironically, they said even the credits on Channel 100, Baby TV, but they say it's educational. Even with song and dance, they'll talk about simple baby concepts like the weather.
Right.
What
all those cartoons
exactly.
do that. Schoolhouse Rock.
You know, farm animals, what farm animals do what. We have to, you know, match this with that. You know, what a tractor is, what kind of weather they have, stormy weather, blowy weather, what the wind is like, and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, all those cartoons do that.
And they even have song and dance routines. Well, not really song, but they were able yesterday to build this tractor. And these three little mice that you just want to hug and kiss were singing this nice song about, and we go chuck chuck dun 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 in a little tractor. Dun 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 dun, made a funny sound. Chuck 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 in a little tractor as we round and round and round. When we go the tractor, when the moose sees when the sheep sees coming, what do they really say? La la la, and we'll go bum 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 in our little tractor. Bum 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 bum. It's a funny, so cute. I can't do it. They are just darling, and I just can't describe how. And then they describe how to compare things to what, like wool comes from the sheep, right? And let's see, we get milk from the cow, and we get eggs from a chicken. They're farm animals. But even Todd said, well, about, maybe the milk goes, with, where the wool is. Where the wool is, wherever we get the wool. Because if you're doing some sewing or doing macrame, you might get thirsty and need a glass of milk. Said, no, I think the milk goes with the cow, because cows give us milk, you know.
Yeah.
They move I just loved it, you know, so.
Well, you know, when Schoolhouse Rock first came out, it beat Sesame Street in the children's, what they call it, Children's Academy Awards that first year. And Schoolhouse Rock was interesting because, you know how you and I have talked about cartoons in the past?
Oh, yes.
Well, the cartoons would come on, and like 5 minutes before a new cartoon would come on, they would put an episode of Schoolhouse Rock.
Interesting.
And it would talk about all kinds of subjects, and conjunction junction. I don't know if you remember that.
You showed me that actually.
Junction,
yes.
What's your function? Hooking up phrases and clauses together.
Oh yes.
That's talking about English.
It is.
And then of course Mr. Bill, I'm Only a Bill.
Yep.
And If You Vote for Me on Capitol Hill.
Yep.
It was just really cute.
It was.
And that talked about, making laws, how laws come into existence, how they have to go through Congress to become a law. And then if the president signs it, it becomes a law. And if he doesn't, if he vetoes it, then they have to go back to Congress and it'll never be a law. So those are just some cute little things. And it talked about math, like, multiplication.
Oh, yes.
And all of that. And my personal favorite is called Figure 8. I don't know if you know that one.
You showed it to me, yes.
Yeah, but it went something like this.
Well, I love Hap Palmer because I took Child Development 1 in high school. Hap Palmer was all educational, but he was a guitar player that had the happiest tunes you've ever seen. At least his older stuff did. And even, I don't know much about, I'm not big on his newer stuff, but the old stuff from the 60s was, let dun 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 dun, make a way for the parade of colors. They were marching all around. At the sound of the bell, they will stop and all sit down. And you could just do activities with the preschool kids about learning shapes and colors, or, triangle, circle, and square. Triangle, circle, and square. When you go through the day, search for all. When you go through the day, look for these shapes: triangle, circle, and square. One, two, three, and around me go. How many numbers can you know? When the teacher sounds a report number, when the teacher calls her, raise your number, and then a bell, and it's such this bouncy stuff, I just love it. And even on toddler tunes, and that was wonderful. Always a happy guitar, even on toddler tunes. Sesame Street was very educational. They have Sesame Street songs about the number 6, the number 2, various shapes.
Well, that's what SchoolHouse Rock, it covered all the multiplications.
Fascinating.
And what was interesting about SchoolHouse Rock, when it did multiplication by 2, it used Noah's Ark as an example. Noah's son, hey Dad, how many animals are in this ark anyway? And Noah says, well, let's find out, son. So it had a theme of 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 times 3 is 6, and 2 times 2 times 4 is 8, and it had all these animals coming out of the ark,
wonderful.
That was pretty cool. And then of course 3 is the magic number that started the whole schoolhouse. And it talked about the Trinity, actually, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Wonderful.
And then it mentioned the family, husband, wife, and their child. And it covered the 3 multiplication, the multiplications. And then, of course, it went to number 5. 5, 10, 15, 28, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 90. 95, 100, when they were playing hide and seek, and the kid was counting like that. And it would cover the 5 times multiplication, and that was pretty cool. And the number 6 was kind of like, I'm not going to say controversial, but it had this guy who had a harem of women multiplied by 6, and how many kids he would have, and how much of a job he'd have to support those kids. But it covered the 6. And then 7 was this rabbit, Lucky Sampson, I think was his name. And he never worked a day in his life, and everything worked out luckily. It was this cute little theme song.
Well, you're learning without even knowing you're learning.
And then Figure 8 was the one I played just now. And then basically with Figure 8, this little girl, she's daydreaming while her teacher is teaching them the multiplication by 8. 2 times 8 is 16, and 8 times 3 is 24, and so on. So the little girl's daydreaming that she's a figure skater while her teacher's teaching math. And so the teacher walks up to the little girl, kind of wakes her up, and then explains, 1 times 8 is 8, 2 times 8 is 16, 3 times 8 is 24, 4 times 8 is 32, and 5 times 8 is 40. It had this cute little song. And Six times 8 is 48. 7 times 8 is 56. 8 times 8 is 64. 9 times 8 is 72. And 10 times 8 is 80. You know, and it had this cute little music.
Yeah.
And then 11 times 8 is 88, and 12 times 8 is the same as 96. And it taught like these tricks that you can do with the number 96 with multiplication. And let's see if I can remember 9. I can't remember how the 9 times multiplication went, but 10 was, 10, 20, 30, 40. And 11 was, it was like this little fairy that went around a clock at 11. Like 1 times, 11 times 1 is 11, 11 times 2 is 22, and so on until it got to the number 9, and it would crash into the number 9 because then the numbers would get bigger. After 11 times 9 is 99, 11 times 10 is 110, I think it was, and it had this fairy demonstrating it.
I love it.
And then finally, the 12 time multiplication, I can't believe I'm remembering all that. 12 was like...
2 washing machines.
No, it was, this boy was looking into outer space, and it was counting the multiplication, like 1 times 12 is 12, and 2 times 12 is 24. You know, just it dealt with outer space, but it covered the 12 time multiplication. So those are just some fun little things about Schoolhouse Rock, but it didn't just cover multiplication. It covered like history, which was cool. And I have in my collection the top 25 Schoolhouse Rock of all time.
Oh, wonderful.
And so it covered the banking system, how the banks charge interest. Like if you borrow from the bank, you got to pay them back plus a dime. And stuff like that. And it's just this simple thing. And speaking of the bank, they had this cartoon. This girl, she was a ukulele player, and she wanted to be Reba McEntire and Dolly Parton. So she wanted to go to the bank and borrow some money to get real equipment instead of a ukulele. And the banker says, well, you know, if you save a year from now, you can come back. She's like, I'm not going to wait a whole year. I want to borrow some money. And so the banker tells her, well, if you borrow money, you got to pay it back plus a dime with interest. So the little girl goes, it's a cute little cartoon. She goes and gets all the equipment. And she's like Reba McEntire. She's rocking and doing her concerts. It was just such a fun cartoon. And then, of course, Mr. Bill, that was the second best Schoolhouse Rock, you know. He was like a piece of paper that was a bill introduced by the people taken to Congress in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, you showed me that one on the internet,
And then, of course, the number 1 is conjunction, junction, what's your function? Let's see if I can figure that out.
Oh, yeah, you showed me that one, I think, But even Palmer had stuff with numbers and figuring out simple math for preschoolers and toddlers, but it was really nice. It was really beautiful,
But and it just covered, it was just a brilliant thing that the creator of Schoolhouse Rock. I think his name was Bob Doe or something like that. But he, along with some other people, created Schoolhouse Rock, and it just left the world some fun, educational, fun songs with learning. And stuff like that. So that's way cool. And I'm dating myself with Schoolhouse Rock because that came out like in the 70s, early 70s. And I don't know how many people even remember Schoolhouse Rock. And Saturday Night Live, they did a skit on Mr. Bill, which I said was the second best comedy. So the African American actor that's on Saturday Night Live, he was Mr. Bill. He put himself in this Mr. Bill paper thing, and then they had the other actor that played President Barack Obama. He's like, "Oh, I'll teach you Schoolhouse Rock." It was funny, and so he pushes Mr. Bill down the steps, and he's kind of like swearing as he's falling. Ah, no, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm not gonna say it on the show, but it just added to the comedy a little bit, you know.
It would,
that Barack Obama would be trying to teach someone history while pushing Mr. Bill down the steps. Only Saturday Night Live could think so.
Oh yeah.
But seriously, you know, Saturday Night Live, they pick on everybody.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah.
That's another subject. But what I'm going with this is that Schoolhouse Rock and like your cartoon you talked about,
Mhm.
and all these other educational
Bleak,
cartoons,
yeah.
Tennessee Tuxedo, they were all fun
Oh, yeah.
cartoons that actually taught children.
Even Caillou, that talked more
Yeah.
about relationships
Right.
and ideas, but it was the same thing, educational, and it was like so entertaining. It was like entertaining about this adorable 4-year-old named Caillou who had a family and friends at play school, but they learned about concepts about growing things and relationships and, you know, what a tractor was, what construction equipment was like. It is such educational, but boy, it was just the sweetest cartoons. But yeah, definitely. Absolutely, yeah, it was just wonderful.
And Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
I never got into Mr. Rogers, as you know, just...
Yeah, I know. Well, his style was different, Mr.
Yeah.
Rogers. But it did have a purpose, though.
Mhm.
And you know, speaking of children's shows, I did a story on Shari Lewis. Do you remember Shari Lewis and LambChop, Hush Puppy?
You
Charlie
talked
Horse?
about it, but I don't remember it really.
Well, Shari Lewis had this sock puppet. It was a lamb, LambChop. Her number one character was LambChop. And I used to watch that cartoon when I was a kid before my mom would send me off to school.
Mhm.
And she had 3 main characters. LambChop was the main character, and Hush Puppy was a dog, and Charlie Horse was this horse with these big teeth. And he was like the mischievous character, Charlie Horse. But they had a bunch of other characters of that time period, like Captain Kangaroo. I don't know if you would know him.
I do know Captain Kangaroo,
with Mr.
yes.
Green Jeans. And then there was Kukla, Fran, and Ollie. I don't know if you would remember that.
No, I don't.
And she had like these puppets that would talk to Kukla. Kukla was a lady.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, a Fran was the lady, and Kukla and Ollie were the puppets.
Mhm.
And they would talk to her behind this like play desk or something like that. And then they had Paul Winchell and Knucklehead. He was a ventriloquist. So, you know, what I'm saying is like in the 60s, they had a bunch of these children's things before even Tennessee Tuxedo and Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah.
But, you know, they've always had these either cartoons or real life people that taught educational things. But of all of them, Shari Lewis was probably the most popular, the most fun.
Huh. Well, it's amazing that anyone could beat out Sesame Street, though.
Well, this is way before Sesame Street.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was one of the first Sesame Street kids, according to my mother. Yeah, I was, and I learned my shape to another through Sesame Street. That was great. They've changed it so many times over the years, though, you know. You can't even hardly recognize Sesame Street from the days when it first started in the 60s, you know?
Yeah, this is a song called This Is the Song That Never Ends. And it goes something like this. This is the song that never ends. Yes, it goes on and on, my friends. Some people started singing it not knowing what it was, and they'll continue singing it forever just because. This is the song that never ends. Yes, it goes on and on, my friends. Some people started singing it not knowing what it was, and they'll continue singing it forever just because.
Yep.
It would go on and on and on and on. It would drive Shari Lewis nuts, and she would tell Charlie Horse to leave.
Yeah?
Yeah. So those just cute little. But the melody went like this. This is the song that doesn't end. Yes, it goes on and on, my friend. What a melody.
Yep.
I'll play it for you. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Can you hear the repetition? You imagine it over and over and
Oh,
over.
yeah.
Ah. And just over and
Yeah.
over and over. And no wonder poor old Shari would tell
Yeah.
Charlie Horse to leave.
Yeah.
Because he would sing that over non-stop, you know. This is the song
Yeah.
that doesn't end. Yes, as it goes on and on, my friend. I'm no singer, but that gives you an idea.
Oh yeah.
And you know, this is fun because, oh my goodness, a lot of time has gone by.
How much time?
Well, let's see. I think our time is just about up, unless my watch is not working.
Well, we started about 12:45 or so.
But according to your watch, what time is it now?
1:20.
Okay, we got some time. I guess my watch.
Wait,
is not
I
working.
can look back there and just see how much time has elapsed because
All right.
it has an account because it's an hour show, right?
Yeah.
Since it's an hour show,
Uh huh.
is it technically an hour or is it 50 minutes?
Well, it can be up to an hour.
We have 30 minutes.
Oh, okay, good. I forgot. I probably didn't wind my watch.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me shake it and get it going. So we got about 30 minutes left.
Yeah, I was looking on the thing. It's
Okay.
1:21. Whenever I do my show, I always check the time, see how much time is left, you know.
All right, well, thanks. Okay, so I'll watch it. We got a half hour.
Mhm.
Now let's get to the main topic here, Popeye.
Mm-hmm.
So this is cool. We've covered some stuff, and that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
But now the main topic is Popeye. And for those people who actually may not know Popeye,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm Popeye the Sailor
Yes,
Man.
yeah.
I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. I'm strong to the finish because I eats my spinach.
Yeah.
He doesn't say he talks funny. We'll get to that in a second. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. Those are the lyrics to the cartoon. And actually, everybody associates Popeye with being in color, but the reality
Oh,
is
yeah.
Popeye came out in 1932.
Mm-hmm.
And it was black and white. And before it came out in cartoon, there was a company called King Features, which was a print syndication company. And it was owned by the Hearst Communications, and that organization made comic strips at that time, newspaper columns, you know, like most papers do, and they did cartoons. And so I'm sorry, not 1932, 1929, let's go back, Popeye was created through the King Features comic strip, and it was known as Thimble Theater. It was a comic strip called Thimble Theater, and they introduced Popeye in 1929 in comic form. And of course, Popeye went on to appear in comic books at that time, television cartoons when he started making cartoons, up to the 1980 live-action American musical comedy, Popeye, which starred Robin Williams and Shelley Duvall. So that's just a bit of history there, how far back Popeye goes. But most people think of the color versions, which were good, but not like the original black and white. The black and white, they were just classics, you know. And it was a fun cartoon. It still is for those who might remember, if they can find some early.
Oh, I'm sure you can find those
Black
on the
and white.
on the internet. I'm
Because
sure.
like on television, they don't show the black and whites because we're talking 1929, you know. So you don't really see
Yeah.
the black and white Popeye cartoons anymore. But yeah, that cartoon goes way back. And I wanted to talk about the movie, and I have my notes here too that I can use because I'm not doing the Asaph Adonai stories so I can use some of those notes for this cafe to talk about cartoon. Not only the cartoon but the movie. Did you ever see the movie?
No, I never did.
Now Robin Williams, it was interesting because Robin Williams plays Popeye, and you know how Popeye has the bulging arms?
Oh yeah.
Well, Robin Williams' character had the bulging arms in the cartoon, and he had the pipe, and the squinky eye they call it. You know, and he talked, and it was funny because Popeye would talk like this. It's not easy being me, master of me own destiny, and I hates responsibility. That's how Popeye talks, you know. But what's interesting about this cartoon? I'm sorry, it's like watching the cartoon.
Oh yeah.
It's one of the most friendly family movies in current times, even cleaner than the Flintstones was, actually.
Wow.
That gives you an idea how clean Popeye was. And I have nothing against the Flintstones, the movie. I thought it was a great movie.
Never saw that movie either.
It had a few overtones,
Mm.
but nothing really serious. Whereas Popeye, it was just like watching the cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
But the synopsis of the movie, Popeye comes to a town called Sweet Haven,
Mm-hmm.
and he's looking for his father who had abandoned him as a baby. And so he comes to Sweet Haven, and Bluto runs the town. He's a pirate bully
Mm-hmm.
that runs the town, and he taxes people, and there's a tax guy on top of that, kind of like Matthew in the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
tax collector.
Yes.
And so that doesn't sit well with the townspeople.
Mhm.
So when Popeye comes through there, he gets taxed by the tax collector, which that didn't sit well with Popeye. So Popeye just kind of resisted and didn't pay the tax at
Mhm.
first. But he takes up a boarding house, a room in the boarding house with Olive Oil's family. And that's how he meets Olive in the film. And Olive is engaged to Bluto. Yikes. You know, that would never happen in a cartoon.
Yeah.
But she's engaged to him, but then when she meets Popeye, she starts taking more of an interest in him, which sets Bluto off.
Mm-hmm.
So when Olive breaks off her engagement to Bluto, that's when he starts taxing the oil family, and then of course the tax collector starts repossessing the house and everything.
Mhm.
So Popeye decides to try to help this family, and he gets into a boxing ring with the local boxing champion, and of course Popeye's going to win that fight like he always does. So he defeats the heavyweight boxer, local heavyweight boxer, whose name happens to be, let's see if I have it here, Oxheart was his name. So Popeye defeats him, which causes the oil family to save their home and their possessions, because see, Olive has a brother named Castor Oil. And so Castor Oil gets into the ring first with Oxblood, Oxheart trying to save the family, and of course Oxblood defeats Castor Oil. So that's when Popeye says, I want to try to help this family. So he gets in the ring with the champion, and he defeats the champion. And that's just such a cool plot line. So then as the cartoon goes on, Popeye and Olive start becoming closer friends. They find this abandoned baby in a basket named Sweet Pea. You remember Sweet Pea in the cartoon?
Vaguely. I only saw the cartoon of the black and white. I did see it a few times, but not much,
Anyway, Popeye finds this baby, this abandoned baby, so he adopts the baby, calls him Sweet Pea, right? And Sweet Pea, if somebody asks him a question and he hears the right answer, even though he can't talk, if the baby hears the right answer, he can predict the future. This is science. It's like your imagination. So even though his baby can't talk, he just whistles. You ask the baby a question. If the baby hears the right answer, even though he can't talk, he can, by whistling, tell you what's going to happen in the future. So Wimpy is this local con artist who likes hamburgers, and he'll gladly pay you back on Tuesday if you give him the money for a hamburger today. Similar to the cartoon. So anyway, Wimpy finds out that this baby can predict the future, right? So he takes that baby to a horse race at the track. And it was funny because it's not a real track with real horses. It was these toy horses, like what do you call an amusement park? You know, these little horses.
Oh yeah.
And so Wimpy ends up winning, right? And so then Bluto finds out about it. He's already ticked off at the oil family anyway. So he forces Wimpy to kidnap this baby. And then Bluto takes the baby, and he has Popeye's father, but he doesn't know that Pappy is the father of Popeye yet. Bluto doesn't know this. Isn't that a cool plot line?
It's interesting, yeah.
Yeah. So Bluto takes this kid and tells Pappy, we're going to make a fortune with this baby since he can tell the future. And so then Pappy like, I don't want this kid. I already got my treasure. I don't need any more. So Bluto, you know, when you get greedy, So he gets mad that Pappy won't go in with it to make more money because Pappy's already content because he has his fortune already. So Bluto takes the child and he kidnaps Olive. And so then Wimpy and Popeye and Olive Oil's family, they go in pursuit of Bluto to try to rescue not only the baby, but Olive Oil. And so when they're in pursuit, there's this big octopus underwater, like this huge octopus with these 8 legs. And he gets waken up by, the pursuit. And so the octopus comes out of the water. And he grabs Olive Oil and he's like wrapping his little tentacles or whatever and pulls her in the water. It was just a cute little cartoon. And so Bluto's like causing trouble while this octopus is grabbing Olive. Help me, Popeye, help me! Just like the cartoon. And so then Popeye's trying to rescue the baby and Olive, and he's fighting with Bluto, slightly like the cartoon. And Bluto always wins at first. And so then Popeye's father, Pappy's watching the fight, right? And he throws his son a can of spinach. And so then Bluto grabs it because in the cartoon, Popeye likes spinach, but in the movie, he hates it. So Bluto goes, oh, so you hate this can of spinach, huh? So he squeezes the spinach and he forces the spinach down Popeye's throat while the octopus is attacking Olive. And you hear that da-da-da-da-da-da. And so then Popeye's like sinking underwater with the spinach. All of a sudden his body does this metamorphosis like a Hulk. And he gets really strong in the movie. And so he punches Bluto, right, knocks him out. And then he goes underwater and he's punching that giant octopus. Like, he spins his arm like in the cartoon. And he's hitting it over and over and over. And he hits it like way up into the air. And so when Bluto sees Popeye's metamorphosed body and punching the octopus, he turns yeller, they call it. And he swims away out of fear, and everyone in town is laughing at him because, Bluto was bullying everybody. Popeye comes along and scares him off. So that's kind of the plot line of the movie. And it came out in 1980, so everybody's seen it, so it's not like I'm giving anything away. But it's one of the most fun family films in modern times. I thought the Flintstones was, and I liked it. But no, I think Popeye is, without a doubt, the most friendly family film in modern times. Not a single sexual innuendo, no immoral jokes, no entendres or whatever they call it. It was just like watching the cartoon with the special effects and everything, and the town.
Well, about the Star Wars trilogy, that was family friendly, pretty much.
I would say so, yeah.
I loved it. And
I guess the reason I'm saying that about Popeye is because it's based on a cartoon that I think kids could, at that time, relate to. Now, I know we're in a science fiction era, so most people will probably like Star Wars better than Popeye, but,
I never could get into Popeye one way or the other. I mean, I've seen the cartoons, the old black and white, I've seen them, but at the same time, I didn't love it or hate it. It just didn't have any science fiction or fantasy. Like, if we want to talk about sailor stuff, I love Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, I know.
I love those
that's
two.
A funny movie too, but you gotta remember this came out way before Pirates of the
Caribbean.
And they didn't have all that stuff like Pirates of the Caribbean, so I understand that.
But I more like the fantasy stuff of pirates and Caribbean and the Pirates of the Caribbean. Matey! That's more my style. Because really, maybe it's too believable. Popeye is a believable pirate, even though he likes spinach. There are people like Bluto. It's more nice, normal cartoons without a lot of imagination.
There's a place for science fiction. There's a place for the Pirates of the Caribbean. But there's a place for plain cartoons. And I admit, I watched a lot of Popeye when I was a kid. And my mom, my birth mother, she used to say, Asaph, if you eat your spinach like Popeye, you're going to get strong.
Yeah.
And when you're like in the first grade, you kind of believe that. You know? And that's how I started eating spinach. That's how my mom got me to eat spinach. It was because
I've had spinach and I hate it. I even had a spinach sandwich with some spinach just on Sunday, and I still don't like spinach.
Well, I think it depends on how it's prepared. Because I've had sandwiches, and instead of spinach like out of the can, if you get that leaf spinach,
I had the leaf spinach. I didn't like that either.
It's an acquired taste, but And I can't speak for every child. I can only speak for me. That's how my mom got me eating spinach.
And I hated
when
the
was
canned
little.
stuff. I just thought it made
Oh
me
yeah,
sick.
I didn't particularly care for that either. But frozen spinach cooked.
Yeah.
But of course, obviously, I didn't get super strong.
Yeah.
Look, I'm scrawny now.
I
Look
know,
at me,
it's
but,
ridiculous.
But by that time, I had acquired a taste for
Yeah.
spinach, and that's a true story. That's how my mother got me eating spinach for real, was because
Yeah.
of this cartoon. And I wonder how many other parents
That's probably what
tricked
parents
their
like them.
kids
Yeah, I'm sure they did. Yeah.
into eating spinach for real because of this cartoon, thinking
Yeah.
that they were going to be super strong, and
Yeah.
it didn't happen.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. It's the whole thing. You know.
But when you're a child, a real young child, you tend to believe, just like Santa Claus,
Well, wait, not even. Yeah, Santa Claus is real. I mean, so let's not even. Santa Claus is quite real. I can debate with you. You may not have seen him, but I believe in him. You don't like that, Santa Claus is coming to do,
Well, I
year
know
without
the
a sun.
history, with
Yeah,
Santa.
that's not even.
Okay, but getting back to Popeye, when you are a kid, you tend to believe things that your parents tell you.
Well, Popeye, yeah, just one of those things. This is some people love Popeye, some people don't.
Probably not. And of course, this cartoon, obviously, especially this 1929 version, is outdated by today's
Oh,
standards.
yeah.
So it's kind of cool to bring it back to life, But it was a fun cartoon. That's just the way it was when I was a kid growing up and stuff like that. So it was fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I would have had lasers in it,
Wow. Perhaps.
If I was doing Popeye, he'd be a pirate and he'd be fighting sea dragons that fire lasers from their laser beam eyes. I would change the whole Popeye thing.
Uh-huh. But Popeye went on to become one of the most popular cartoons in that time period.
Huh.
For the comic strips.
Mm.
That King Features, they had cartoons like Betty Boop.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Betty Boop? And
I never cared for Betty Boop.
Well, a lot
me.
of people don't. And then, of course, the original Superman came out.
No, Superman.
I'm talking about the original.
Oh, the original.
Original 1920-ish Superman cartoons. And even the comics were, Superman was invincible. I don't think they had kryptonite at that time.
Huh.
I mean, the original Superman, he was just invincible. Nothing could hurt him. And of course, as time goes by, the creators start thinking up ways to make them more human. Because if they're too invincible, then people can't relate. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Stuff like that. Excuse me. So, kryptonite was invented. Well, actually, if you talk about kryptonite, when the planet Krypton blew up, it probably became poisonous or whatever in the explosion. So anyone that's from that planet being exposed to those rays becomes weak.
Mm-hmm.
Because Superman gets his power from the sun. The rays of the yellow sun.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Yeah. So it's any particle from the planet Krypton would weaken him.
Mm-hmm.
So just food for thought,
Yeah.
But yeah, all those cartoons and superheroes, they're just fun imaginary stuff, whether it's in the movies or, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, you have to watch that Popeye. If you spend the night sometime, we can watch that.
Oh, yeah.
I think you will like it. I really think you'll like it.
Mm-hmm.
Just from its clean point of view and just the plot line and the music. They play the same music like in the cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty cool. And stuff like that. Flintstones is good too because John Goodman, he slides down the dinosaur's tail just like Fred Flintstone in the cartoon. And he says, yabba dabba doo, as he slides down the dinosaur's tail. And he leaps up in the air and he jumps into his car, just like Fred Flintstone did in the cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool cool special effect.
Yeah, well, for a wonderful holiday movie, or for a family-friendly movie that's the whole family would enjoy. I love Caillou's holiday movie. That was again from Caillou. They put it on Sprout TV. They didn't show it this year that I know of, because it's not Universal Kids. But it was about Caillou, how he was looking forward to Christmas and Santa Claus and the whole thing, and counting down the days and learning about Christmas traditions. It was just sweet and adorable and entertaining. And it was a musical too. I have talked about that film, It wasn't a pure musical, but it had musical elements in it. I just loved it. That is a good family film. St. Patrick's Day is coming up soon.
I know. This is called Coming to the Rye. I'll play it again.
Yeah.
Coming to the Rye.
Do you don't want any more of the secret?
I'll take a little bit more, yeah. So that's Coming to the Rye. And I wanted to play one little Irish tune before
Yes.
we sign off, because I think we're out of time now. Do you
Yep.
have any final words you want to say?
Yes, there were these two washing machines, and they were sticking their tongues out at the Popeye cartoon. Then one dryer came along and said, "Oh, I can't see around that! Ha 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 ha! Isn't that hilarious?"
Well, anyway, that's fun.
Yeah.
So
Happy
anyway,
St. Patrick's Day. Yeah.
This was such fun. An hour went by so quickly. So we're on the set of the original Popeye the Sailor Cartoon, the 1929 Popeye. And I am what I am.
Yep.
And I'm strong to the finish, because I eats me spinach.
Yep.
And on that note, I am Asaph Adonai, and affectionately on our left, our aging rocker Emmett. So thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Emmett. And until our next show, Maranatha. Well, just make yourself at home like I always say, and wait till I shut everything down.